Welcome to our program, Living Through Litigation, Maintaining Your Well-Being During a Malpractice Lawsuit. I'm Doug Shin, CAP's General Counsel, and I'd like to thank you for participating in this program. Whether you're facing a medical professional liability lawsuit or simply interested in learning more about the litigation process, it's our hope that this program provides you with valuable support and guidance. This presentation will share techniques for maintaining your well-being during the exceptionally stressful experience of litigation. You'll learn skills for coping with the anxiety of a lawsuit, how to adjust your mindset to respond to setbacks, and how attuning to your emotional regulation can enhance your resilience. I'm very pleased to introduce our expert speaker. Susan Fink-Childs is the founder of Evolution Healthcare Consulting with over 30 years of healthcare experience. She is a fellow of the American College of Medical Practice Executives and serves as a medical practice advisor for a diverse array of physicians and medical systems. Ms. Childs regularly delivers educational workshops to physicians covering emotional intelligence and leadership, communication, ghost patient perception, physician administrator collaboration, operations, and conflict resolution. Her book, The Emotionally Intelligent Physician Leader, encompasses the world of the physician and their relationship with peers, patients, and staff. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Susan Fink-Childs to begin the discussion. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Doug. That's a lovely intro. Thank you very much. So thank you also for inviting me to do this. Your time is much, much appreciated. We're going to be talking about, as Doug said, how to handle and protect your well-being through this traumatic time. And here is my disclosure. There are no disclosures to disclose. And I would say welcome to anyone who is taking the time to listen to this, and I hope that many of you are. Whether you are at the beginning, whether you've not experienced this, whether you're at the middle, at the end, and you're all through it, I hope this gives you some answers and some good settlement issues and helps you along the way through this process. So we are going to be covering a lot of these things, how this can affect you, psychological, physiological, physical changes that can occur. And the first thing I would want to know is what can I say and who can I say it to? I tend to be a little emotional, and I'm the first person that would need to go to talk to someone about this first. And how also EI and EQ can help you with all of this, with the stress and anxiety and all these emotional things you go through, how to regulate your emotions and how to handle everyday life. And the stigma that comes with that, even if you're innocent, right? The stigma with your family, your peers, staff, and community, and also being aware of your approaches to care. Everything looks different now, so everything will be different, and we'll talk about how that goes. Also, again, coping with everyday life. There are certain tools you can have to protect yourself every day and through crisis, and keeping yourself as even as you can through this whole process. And also, at the very end and going through this process, remembering what you are really here for and what you really do and what you offer. Remember, too, that 1 out of 3 physicians are going to be sued. So we have to keep this in mind for the probabilities. The psychological and physical changes that occur, EI and self-awareness can really help you understand what's going on. You might notice a certain set in your jaw. You might be angry. You might be walking a certain way. You might have tense muscles. You might be defensive about everything. These are the kinds of things that if you're aware of and you're aware of your reactions to people and how you approach, then it's much easier for you to have conversations and interactions. And you don't want to wear your heart on your sleeve. You want to have some kind of good stabilization to how you appear to others as well, and recognizing your emotions and being aware of your responses as they occur. That's emotional intelligence, that relationship management, and that self-awareness, and all of that can help you through this. There's also Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief, which really, really resemble this when you think about it. When you first hear it, you kind of can't believe it. You're in denial. You're in shock. How could this happen? I did everything I could. I did everything the right way. I did everything I was taught. What could I possibly have done wrong? And you're in denial. The next step is anger, and rightfully so. Life is unfair sometimes, unfortunately, and you can be very angry about it and just anger at the whole incident happening for whatever reason that would be happening. Then comes the bargaining. Well, maybe if I'd said this, maybe if I'd done this, maybe if I had done something different, maybe this wouldn't have occurred. And that I call the endless speculation, which is not good. It's not healthy because it's endless. And you really don't want to do that. You want to get away from the speculation and just deal with the facts. That would really help you. And depression, of course, we're depressed about it. Who wouldn't be? It's not a fun thing to go through. It affects your life, it affects career, it affects everything. And then eventually, you accept it. And really, it's very painful, but gradually it eases up, and time really can be your best friend in that it gives you time to gather information. We'll talk about that. And just to accept it and move on and continue on with your daily life. And it helps you going through and moving on because if you accept it, you can move forward. And it takes a while to get there, but those are the stages that you will often go through. So this table has to do with the medical frequency by type of practice. And you can see that I use 2016 results because the newer results are very skewed because they include the dates of COVID. So there were fewer procedures and fewer people going. And you can see also, as one doctor says to another, welcome to the club, because I believe physicians in a 40-year experience in medical practice have 11% of their medical life actually dealing with a liability case. So think about that. It's either with you or someone else. It could be with a partner. It could be, again, yourself. But it looks like something we definitely need to be prepared for. You will also notice that the physicians that are sued are different percentages for different kinds of people. Now, again, this is type of practice, and you will look and see here that it is sued by age and specialty. And you see that the procedure-driven specialties are much higher. OBGYN are at 53, general surgery 54, and you see them kind of go down from there. Emergency is very high, and a doctor I interviewed a lot for this was an emergency medicine doc, and he was stunned and amazed when he received his first liability case. So again, this is the very first thing I would want to know. I'm an emotional person. I like sharing things with people, but you have to be careful. So the first thing I would say is talk to your liability carrier, speak with your attorney, because they can give you the most professional and confidential advice that is confidential. Your rabbi, your priest, you can have these discussions with people that are confidential, but first find out what's legally available for you to talk about so that, for example, you're not speaking with your best friend and really confiding in them as anybody would, but they can be brought into court because that is discoverable information and it's not with a confidential source. So think about that, who you can speak with that is confidential and to connect. You have to speak with somebody. Just think who that can be. The main point is that you feel safe and protected with who you can speak with. We all know that trauma is a very bad thing. Stress, anxiety, and fear, we've all experienced it, and we've seen it in others. It lodges in the body. You are physically wearing your stress, and it reflects how we view the world. And we all know that these effects can also be very devastating. I've only been that stressed out and that depressed once, and it was horrible, and I got out of it, and it was a good thing, but it was a fight, and I needed to do it, and I did it. So it is a fight. We can do this and we can get through this. That emotional fallout, depression and anxiety stays with you. It does not leave, right? And you have that whole new perspective of life. You're not looking at anything the same anymore. You're valuing what you had before. You're valuing what you have now. But as you're looking at things differently, think about how you're reacting. Again, it's that emotional intelligence. Are you being defensive? Are you reacting with anger? Are you frustrated? I'm sure all of these things will come into play and you will feel them at times. It's how you regulate it and how you calm yourself down and handle it and how you react to others that will make a difference with your future relationships and with yourself, how you settle things in your own brain, right? Also, physical illnesses, you see them listed here. So, what I say when someone comes to me with a problem like this, take one thing at a time. You're not going to get over everything all at once. And if you take care of one thing, it really helps you with others. And I like to use sleep as the first example because it is so needed. The American cardiology group actually added sleep to the 8 things that you now need to have to live and be healthy. And they say 7 to 9 hours a night No more or no less can make you too sleepy or too awake, right? So that's a good, healthy sleep. Your brain has to clear itself out. Think about it. You're working with people. You have to make cognitive decisions, and it will make you have better, help you have better decisions throughout your day as well. This is something that can be very, very important and very rewarding for yourself. If you recognize, reflect, and respond, again, it's thinking about how you're taking things in, how you're responding, and how you're reacting to people. Mindfulness and relaxation is something that a lot of people do at different points of the day, at different points of their life for different reasons, but they really, really can help. Even if it's a simple breathing exercise, it helps a lot. If you attune into your emotions, it really helps because you're very aware of how you're coming off at that second. And that can be very incremental with very important conversations. It's also important to keep track of your progress as you receive this information and you're going through those 5 stages and you progress and you learn more information and you achieve something, you've gotten a little bit better sleep by going to bed 1 hour earlier every night. That often can help you just getting in that routine, just like what you did with your kids. Anything that you can do that will help you have a better day and progress in your life, and actually write it down and keep a journal. You can burn it when you're done. You don't have to keep it, right? But it also shows your progress and you can feel that progress. When we write things down, we put them in our mind a little stronger, just like when your patients sign a document. When we write things down, we take it a little more seriously. It also strengthens us and it helps us recognize the stressful situations. Even if you're looking back and you're saying, oh, I didn't handle that well, but I know how to do that now, or I handled that very well, or I don't have to handle that anymore. So your experiences will only lead you to a more progressive future and hopefully responding appropriately. I call litigation kind of the roller coaster of emotion because some days you're going to have good days, some days you're going to have bad days, and that's naturally anyway, right? But it's really true with this because any strong emotion is going to stay front and central in your brain until it's taken care of, and you can't forget about this until the suit is done. And we know that these emotions significantly impact our relationships, so we have to be very aware of that as well. If we build resilience and a mindset with each step that we do, with each patient we see, with each interaction, trying to keep it positive, and everything with EI has to do with a positive resolution, it just will follow organically, hopefully. Part of that is recognizing the triggers that can create that roller coaster. You can see a patient, you can recognize a diagnosis, possibly the one you're being sued for, somebody who comes in who kind of gloats things over everybody else. It doesn't matter. It can be a person, it can be a thing, or it can be a place. Just recognizing those triggers that create that roller coaster, and then you pull yourself back a little bit and think how you can react. And of also considering your body language as you approach others. Are you walking angrily? Are you walking very stiffly? Are your hands on your hips? Is your chin held up high in a very defensive reaction? Think about how you're coming off, recognizing those triggers. And also, daily life is sometimes very hard to do, and these kind of things catch you off guard. So, if you can, remember when these things hit, remember that you are the number one priority and maintaining that even keel wherever you go. Your health is the most important thing because it carries you through to the next confrontation. And remember, the more you accept what's going on, the more information you have, that equals control over the situation because that gets rid of some of the fear. And we want to do that as well. That helps you with the regulation. So life itself can be really overwhelming. This adds even more, right? Excuse me. And we have to prioritize our personal safety. That comes first, and our families, of course, and seeking that appropriate support. It can be a rabbi, a priest, a minister, it can be your attorney, it can be a therapist, it can be anybody you want that you can speak with again, confidentially, keeping that in mind. And also, appropriate support is from your family. You don't have to tell them everything, but you can tell them how it makes you feel. You can tell them how it may change your and their life, that kind of thing. That's what we do when we share things. And then you can handle them together. You can have some calming exercises, physical exercise. Physical exercise is like the answer to everything. It seems to reduce stress, it reduces risk of disease. And even if you're just walking 10 minutes a day, just getting some sunshine, that alone can break that train of thought, and that can help you. And developing these strategies that manage effectively, right? That really work for you, and doing these things over and over again so that they continue, not just once, but it's a maintenance thing, and you continue that. And also boundaries, again, when it's appropriate to share and when to walk away. Don't assume everybody wants to know everything, and don't expect to know that what everybody wants. You may assume things, but they may or may not be true. Just deal with your own expectations and what you need to do to take care of yourself. And as you do that, you're practicing superior communication, which is being clearly understood and completely relayed. So you're telling them everything and they understand you very completely. If you do all those things, that will really help with your communication and handling your everyday communications. This is just like a Pandora's box because you don't know how people are going to behave. You're going to get great support from some people that you didn't expect, and maybe not so much support from people you did. But that's okay because you're in charge of your own world and you have friends that will come out that you didn't think will come out. Just like any other bad situation, we all support each other. That's what good friends and good peers do, right? There's something called Lewin's Law from 1936, and they talk about the person and the environment equaling the cultural change. So I tell people, and as I work with people, and it's true, as you react differently and as you act differently, people will react differently, possibly in a more positive way or maintaining that positive way that you're working. And then that changes the culture. And it all comes from the top. Everyone looks to the physician to set the standard of care. So if you are saying, okay, we're going through this, but we're going to make it and it's going to be okay, that's what everybody else will reflect, and your culture reflects that as well. So think about conduct and culture and how that works. And as a physician, you've trained to be infallible, right? It works that can, you've been trained to think that you can do these things and you have great judgment and people trust you and respect you, and what you say is gospel. And that's okay. And that's the way it should be. You are in charge. That's why they call the rest of us support staff, because the physician is the end and the physician is what everybody wants. So remember that as you're working with people and your peers, because they still want to have that continual relationship with you. They trusted you before, they can trust you again. And think about, even when you're innocent, you feel tainted because now you have this kind of stigma that kind of goes towards you. And even if it's not real, some people may look at you differently. And again, all you can do is be yourself and be yourself first and continue what you're doing. When you're going through this, as you're speaking with your family, different cultures have different things, and each of them should be respected. Just as I respect your culture, you respect mine. This also leads to some cultures will not tell their wives or their spouses or their husbands what's going on because they're very proud. But remember too, when you hold things in, it's not good. And your spouses and your partners know something's going on. So even if you share with them just enough to say, this is what we're going through, you might read it in the paper, you might see it, and this is true with peers too. As they discover things, what will you say to them? How will you be reflecting? Yes, I'm going through this, and I will let you know the results. Or yes, I'm going through this, and it's a hard time. I would appreciate your support. You don't have to give any information, but as long as you say, I need your support, they'll be there to support you. It doesn't matter, because those who care about you would do it no matter what anyway, right? And that's just the way it is. That's the way I feel about family and friends and also cultures. And you also have to approach everything together. You don't feel alone if you share this with your trusted individuals. So think about that. And as simple as it sounds, the the hard topics are the continual conversations. Let me repeat that. I'm sorry. Sometimes thinking about and talking about the hard topics can be very, very difficult, but they're also very cleansing. And when you approach hard topics with people, they also create an incredible bond. And that's especially true with peers. If you think they're not understanding what's going on, again, you don't have to share everything, but a lot of people have gone through this. They understand how you feel, or they know someone who has. And if they can relate to it at all, remember that can affect your conduct and your culture and how people react back to you. With your peers, staff, and community, rise above. Again, you are known for the value that you offer your community. And just because you're accused of being something wrong doesn't mean you have to act like it, right? The stigma is painful, it's true, but maintaining your self insurance and keeping your relationships intact, maintaining those strengthened relationships, that will help keep you going. And it only builds a stronger bond. You never know, they may be going through it and you have to help them. We're all in this to help and go through this together. You've created these great relationships with peers for a long time for a reason. You also continue to provide a sensible practice. Don't change the way you practice. Continue to do just what you did. You have a panel of patients and you have value, or else they wouldn't be there. And as you provide that medical care as a team, all of your team sees that, and it only affirms your value. And that's what we need too through this whole process is affirmation of your value. And this will give it to you. Just keep that pride up. This is kind of scary because a lot of times your patients feel like this, and now you're feeling like this because you might have a little bit different approach to care. Dr. McHugh was actually telling me that every time he sees a patient with the same diagnosis he was sued for, he just freaks out. He doesn't know what to do, and he tries not to do defensive medicine just because of that diagnosis, because he believes he did fine the first time, right? But we all react this way. We're all going to be doing this. It's a natural reaction. You are in survival mode during this process, and survival is your strongest instinct. So, yes, you're going to be defensive. And again, your patients come to you for a reason, and don't let go of that. Dr. McHugh said he has to stand back and look things very objectively and look at that lifelong dynamic of what you're trying to accomplish and what you have already, and let that carry through. We also have to let uh, any unknown or unforeseen biases that we may have that may come out with stress not come out with stress. We have to be aware to take care of everybody, no matter their race, gender, identity, anything they're going by. We have to respect everything, every culture, and look at everybody evenly, right? That's what we do. And when we do that with the care that we've always been offering, it's not so hard to do. We just have to stand back and take a breath sometimes, realize that biases may or may not be there, and move forward. We are animals, right? We are very resistant to change. We go to our comfortable place. And with us, we also are very, very curious. And resisting change is a protective instinct. Part of that is not wanting to know what's really going on. But knowledge is truly power here. When you're talking with your attorney, know every single part of your chart, every single part of your case, because if you know everything, that gets rid of the fear. You're able to react much better. And in a courtroom, you're able to respond much better because you're much more attuned to what's going on and you know all of the facts. Resisting change in general is, again, a very protective instinct. And in this instinct, overcoming that resistance is crucial. We're going to have to do it. We all go to our comfortable place, but even just doing one thing different could really help. I like to start with your schedule. And every physician I work with, I ask, how's your schedule? And they say, well, it's okay. It's okay. And then when we start looking at it a little more, because no one's life is stagnant, right? Everyone's life changes. So if your schedule is 2 years old and your life is a little bit different, and it's very different now, you may want to change that a little bit. So take a look at it. And I would say looking at your changing your schedule, which is an art and it can be done. We'll talk about that in a minute, all the way to allocating and relocating your time. So you may want to leave your group, you may want to stay with your group. It depends upon what you want to do. But again, it's all about you and your survival and taking care of yourself. And if that means changing a big pattern or a little pattern, that's okay. Try some little ones. And being open to new things as much as possible. Try something little, and that helps. Preparing for all possibilities is really crucial. It's something you have to do. And a liability, unfortunately, is such a high possibility. It's one of those things that everyone should prepare for, whether it happens or not. Because if it happens, then you're ready for it. You kind of know what to do, and you've kind of had a primer on how to react, especially at first. And remember too, that before the verdict, have it pictured in your mind what you will do if that verdict goes against you, and visualize also if you're found not guilty. Think about your timeline of possibilities. If I'm found guilty, this will be my plan. If I'm found not guilty, this will be my plan. And actually write it down. Like I said before, when we write things down, we tend to think and take them more seriously. So if you write down your possibilities, a timeline, okay, not guilty, that's beautiful. In the next 6 months, this is what I'd like to achieve. If I'm guilty, this is what I'll need to do, and this is what I'd like to achieve. Remember, this is not the end of your life. You can do things past this, and you think about those possibilities. And if you envision them and come up with plans A, B, and C, and you know you have a plan, no matter what happens, you will have a really good future. So that's what you can think about. And draw it in your mind so you can actually see it. This is inevitable. Even in regular life, we have setbacks, and they are essential to our journey. I've had a few that have been a couple of whoppers, and we probably all have, and we all move forward from them. We make our choice to move forward. And a good friend of mine who's a therapist says that there are no plateaus. You very rarely go through a plateau in your life. It's usually an up and down. It's really good, or some things are going on. So they are essential to your journey, and that's okay. You deal with them. So what you do is, we will probably experience these things, and we view with self-compassion and see as an opportunity for learning and growth. It's true. What your mother said to you, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. It's true, right? It's an opportunity for learning and growth. What can I do better? What can I do to avoid this from happening again? And this is also where your best friend comes in. This is when you call them up and say, okay, I really need a best friend. Let's go to the movies. Let's go have ice cream. Let's have a glass of wine. Let's go for a walk. Let's do whatever you would like to do. But this is where they come in and you talk and they listen, or you talk together. But if you overcome these hurdles and you go to professionals and you utilize your resources, we've built up a whole career of peers and resources that we can use. Now is the time to use those, every single one. If somebody can help this make it feel better for you, if somebody can help you through this process and they've been with you a long time and you've known them, why not? Hopefully they would call you as well. And I would say that you can do this. So tools that can protect you through this process. And sometimes these are easy to do, excuse me, and sometimes they are not. But if you begin with each day with intention, my stepmother used to read passages every morning, and it helped her set the day for each day. They can be spiritual, they can be Facebook. It doesn't matter, right? It's if you have a great intention each day and it makes you feel good and there's a mission. Like, I know I'm going to see Susan today in the practice. She's doing really well. It's going to be great to see that success. Or I'm going to see this problem patient today and I'm going to handle it really well and we're going to see great progress. Try to start with positive intention, or just getting through a special appointment or a meeting or something tough. Have that goal and have that intention, and that will help you get through it because you're envisioning it in your mind already. And avoid those feelings of isolation. Hang around with your friends. If you feel like people are pulling back, find those people that are leaning towards you. Those are your real friends, right? Seek out help and look for other professionals that can help you through this. And share your feelings, not the case, as we said before. With your best friend, you can do that, but not the case, no details. And this is important no matter what you're doing in leadership. Every leader I know, when I interview people for my books, they say, always have a core group of people around you that you trust and that will listen to you and you will listen to them, because they are the ones that are going to be the most honest with you. Your best friend will give it to you straight. And that's what we need. Because sometimes we need to be kicked around a little bit, and sometimes we need to be just supported and a little extra TLC. Because remember, if you don't protect yourself now, you will pay for it later. You're making that choice. We all need to protect ourselves. This is extra TLC that you need to grant yourself, which you will do either now or later. So the goal is to maintain a productive and positive life. Your proper diet, adequate rest, all these things that your parents told you to do, these are more important than ever. Because when we're going through a crisis, we forget about the little things, the everyday things. We're dealing with the crises, we're dealing with the problems, we're dealing with the putting out fires and with patients every day. But remember, if you focus on yourself, as we know, it helps you focus on other people. And everyone has stress, but you are working with patients, and you and patients are both making life and death decisions every day. It's not your typical occupation, and it's very heavy on you already. So to have this, you really have to grant yourself the TLC that you need. Utilize that awareness, and you improve your rapport and your communication on every level as you are honest with people and keeping things close to the vest. You're also engaging in stress reduction activities, which maybe you needed before, maybe you were already doing, but now they're more important than ever. Coping healthily and constructively will help you every day. Again, that 10 minutes outside. I worked with a doctor who, as you know, sometimes you eat standing up at the stove because you don't have an extra moment. But he would always take 10 minutes to sit outside and read a book. Again, breaking that train of thought helps you go back to what you were doing with a totally refreshed mind. It really helps. Taking care of your physical and emotional well being is very, very important. So when I talk to people, I talked to Dr. McHugh, who is an amazing emergency room physician, and he told me that he received his notice during a shift with a certified letter. And he was so mortified and so taken aback that it actually took away everything, every achievement, everything he had done since high school. Again, physicians are often at the top of their class as they enter any school. The competition is high, the pride is high. And when he received this, he just couldn't believe it. And he became very defensive, and it was very hard for him not to close his practice. But just remember that a lot of people do go through this. And I would say, when I asked physicians, I talked to 2 or 3 wonderful, wonderful physicians, and I said, what would you say to someone who has just received this kind of notice? And as Dr. McHugh said, welcome to the club. And he also said, and others, you are not alone. Remember that. Find others who have gone through this with you. You can't share the privileged information, but you can talk about the feelings, the steps that people go through, what to expect, what not to expect. Just like anyone else who has gone through anything you haven't, you have a lot to learn, and most of them are very willing to share this because they would like it to be hopefully easier for someone else than it was for them. And also, let your attorney take charge. It's wonderful to be in control of things, but just like with physicians and your patients, and you like to be in charge of your patients and give the great advice, trust that too with your attorney. If you let go of that and you work with your attorney and let them take charge and trust their advice, it's freeing because you're letting yourself go towards that. And if you trust them, that should not be a problem. Staying healthy and eating the right foods, keeping up a good diet, try to get the right sleep. Again, these are basic things, but they really help you through the process because things add up. If you don't sleep well, you know you get a deficit and you can't make those important, very important decisions that you make every day with every patient. And just because there's a lawsuit doesn't mean you did something wrong. And also, just because you did something wrong once, everyone's human. My aunt told me that my uncle had made mistakes, but he was never sued. I don't know if it was not a real issue or it was taken care of or what the reason was. But remember that just because you're sued, it doesn't mean that you did something wrong. I had the honor of actually seeing Dr. Bennett Omalu, and he's the physician that wrote Concussion. And this next slide shows perfectly how he felt about himself and how I think every physician should feel about themselves as well. And that is because everyone is an individual. Again, you have your patients, they love you for a reason. And when I saw him, he was speaking at the California Medical Association, and he was literally up on stage screaming. We were both presenting there, and he was up there screaming, my name is Bennett Omalu, and nobody will listen to me, and I have value. And that's because he was trying to tell everybody what was going on, and nobody was taking him seriously. Everyone has value. Everyone should take you seriously. And he was very proud. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to remember that you should be very proud and know your value. And please, moving forward. When I wrote my books, I spoke with my Aunt Selma, and she was married to my Uncle Austin. And I never realized until I was writing that all of my uncles and my grandparents were physicians. That it's just what they were. And when I spoke with my Aunt Selma, she was married to my Uncle Austin, who was chief of ophthalmology for 38 years at Long Island College Hospital. And I said, can you tell me what you see the relationship between the physician and the patient should be? Because to me, that is the most important thing. Everyone else runs circles around it. That's what we do. And you're the icing on the cake, right? That's why everyone is here to see the physician. And she told me this, and you've probably been reading it all along, but I love this, that it's the soul of medicine, because that's where it begins. That's the basis of medicine. And healthcare is local. When you're in the room with a patient, there is nothing more intimate than sharing someone's health and the possibility of dying, the possibility of living, having a baby, all of these things that you might lose or you might gain, seeing a physician. These are all things you do together, and it's the soul of medicine, and there's nothing more intimate than that. And giving help to people who are desperate, feeling safer with kindness and empathy. My favorite part is taking it to a higher level of treatment where they feel kindness and another level of dimension. Because that's what you feel like. When I'm in the room with my doctor, I feel like I'm the center of the universe. And I know that you feel like that with your patients, and your patients feel like that with you. So whether you make one mistake or more, remember, one mistake does not make up your whole life, and it will affect your life, but it doesn't have to define the rest of your life. Here are some great resources for you. We have CAP, of course, and they would be your first resource. National and state and local medical associations book. And please continue to use CAP as your resource. And I hope you have enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, please reach out to CAP. I'm sure they would be a great resource for you. Thank you very much.
Susan, thank you for that excellent presentation. It was very thoughtful and detailed, but it does look like we do have some questions for you if you have some time.
Yeah.
The first question that I got was, how can I maintain my dignity and pride with all of this going on?
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, even something as simple as being laid off from a job because they're downsizing really affects your pride. So when someone affects you personally for something you have done that you were trained to do, I mean, that's really hard to get over. And I would say, I guess in my closing, kind of in the same thing, in that don't let one incident define your life. We've all made huge mistakes. And even if you didn't make the mistake, that's okay, because again, this is not going to ruin your life. Keep your pride by doing those everyday things. Start your day with feeling like, yes, I can do this. I can move forward through this. And there will be things going on. Your family will be an incredible support for you. Your friends will be a great support for you. And if you're having a bad day, just admit that, let it go, and then get better the next day. Nobody's perfect, but keeping that. And each positive encounter that you have moves towards another positive encounter. Every time you've handled someone that has a little doubt or they have another question and you've answered it in a good way, like, yes, I'm going through this, but no matter what happens, I'm going to keep practicing medicine because I love it and I love my patients and I think my patients love me. And that shows somebody that you really believe in yourself, and that carries over to them, because then they go, oh, I guess he is kind of cool. I guess she is kind of cool. I guess they are kind of cool. And they will keep going. And that shows the kind of pride and training and expertise that they truly have.
That's some great advice, Susan. I'm sure our physicians are happy to hear that. The next question that I see in the queue, and I'm sure that a lot of our physicians have been thinking about this as they've heard your presentation, which is, how do I tell my staff what's going on? I mean, is there even a good way to introduce this idea or this matter to them? How's the best way to handle this?
I think the first conversations are never easy because it's the first conversations you have. So I would have those first conversations first with my peers and my partners or whoever whoever the most important people that you see every day. It doesn't have to be, the people supporting you, although the people supporting you are very, very important, and they're going to notice a difference with you. So first I would start with my peers. Of course, you would need to do that anyway with partners. This is what's going on. They're probably aware of it because it's part of the practice. And often the practice is named as well, or other physicians associated with you. So the first thing to do would be to talk with other people that might be involved, talk with your liability carrier, what you can say to these people. And I would only share anything with the people that you're with every day. The people that you're not with every day, you don't really have to say anything to. They might not even know. Don't assume that they know everything, because then you might appear defensive. But the only thing you need to say to your staff is, I'm going through this and I want your support. I think that's the only thing you really need to say. Now, if you're speaking with your litigation people, with your attorneys, with your liability people, and there's a lot of people in the room, you can also, you can talk about that as long as it's privileged and they are confidential people. But I would just be very honest, but not share it. And you could also talk about how you plan on handling it. You can say, no matter what happens with this, I want to stay with this practice. No matter what happens with this, I'm probably going to retire at the end. No matter what happens with this, I'm probably going to do this. And if you, again, ask for their support, people come out of the woodwork. I don't know if any of you have gone through something really, really bad. Unfortunately, most of us have. And I would say that friends that I knew were friends were really, really good friends. And there were some friends that really stepped up that I didn't expect. And it was so welcomed and so loved. And this is what they're for. So I would say use people for support, get the information of what you can, and only say what you need to, kind of like in a court of law, but enough so that they know something's going on, but they can offer your support. That's
I
what
think
I'd say.
those are great points, Susan. I mean, your staff can surprise you and be a good source of support for you as well as your friends, it sounds like. So those are all great things for our
You're a
physicians
nurse.
to consider. Yeah,
Yes, thank you. And I would say your nurse and your manager are your very best friends. They really are. And when you're speaking with your family and you're sharing things, nobody knows how to support you better, because nobody knows you better than somebody you spend all that time with. If my medical director had come into me, and I was fortunate, I never worked with any docs that were sued. But if I had a medical director coming into my office saying, we're facing a lawsuit, I would say, don't tell me don't tell me anything you don't need to, but how can I help you? Because we are loyal. The loyalty factor in your staff and your peers should never be doubted. It's really there. And if you're worth being loyal to, then they are there to help you. So let them do that. Again, use your resources.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think another question we got, Susan, was you touched a little bit about schedules and when you talk to physicians about their schedules, and perhaps maybe changing things up. The question that we got was, how can I change my schedule without imbalancing others? I know it can be a touchy subject, and there's a lot of factors that go into that, especially for physicians that are practicing in groups. But what can you advise our physicians about
I mean,
schedule changes when they
yes.
want to go into that and make that change?
Yes, there's nothing more important than your scheduling. And I will tell you that I've done schedules, and scheduling is an art. So if you want to have a really good schedule and make best friends with your front desk, I'll tell you that right now, because they're the ones that are in charge of your workflow, because they set the schedule, right? Or whoever sets your schedule. But think about that. I think the first thing I would do is, think about your tenure with the practice. Think about your position in the practice, how much you can do without affecting other people's schedules, and talk with. I would have a meeting with all the other docs, whether individually or together, and say, look, I'm going through this. You're aware of this. I need to protect my schedule, because again, you need some TLC. You may need time to go to court. You may need time to speak with an attorney. You may need to do, whatever your different needs are for this case, or just to get away and get your sanity while you get your stuff together. I mean, some people just need that. So the first thing I would do, I guess, is speak with the doctors I'm working with and say, tell me what's most sensitive for you and where we can compromise. You can even just make it as simple as working longer days and having one day off a week. You can work a 10-hour shift. You can work, a different shift like nurses do. and cut out a day, something like that. It depends upon where you are, the kind of physician you are, what kind of schedule you have. An OB is going to be very different than an oncologist, that kind of thing. But looking at your schedule, looking at your peers, respecting that, working with them, hopefully working with you, seeing what's available, all the ifs, ands, or buts that are there, and then go meet with your scheduler and say, this is what I need to do. And again, you don't have to tell them why. You can just say, I need to change my schedule. It's none of their business unless you want to say, as you know, I'm going through the suit and I need to make a little more room. But you don't have to give a reason. All you have to do is say, I need to change, and sit down with them because you have the schedule template, and maybe you can extend it. Maybe you can cut out a day, or maybe somebody could add some patients. That's the last resort because they're already taking care of their own patients. They don't need to take on yours as well. But some practices might have a new physician that can take on some of these newer visits or something else that might already be attributed to your schedule. So think about this. There are 20 different ways to look at your schedule, and looking at certain days that are more important than others. And I think one thing that we've all discovered is that it's a whole new world out there, and we have to look at everything differently. And again, if you haven't looked at your schedule in 2 years, it's good to look at it anyway. And I kind of predict that as you look at your schedule and others may change, they may look at their schedule as well. And that's okay, because if everybody goes through a little smoother and it flows through and everybody's working together, that's what creates a symbiotic relationship that people see and your staff see. And when you're all working together, especially through something difficult. And we've done that with practices. And if you've experienced that, when the staff and the patients, when the patients notice that the staff is going through something that is very critical and it's affecting their usual workflow, everybody is very supportive, and it makes that strengthen even more. And that's what we're looking for, is that support.
Those are all great points, Susan. I think it goes back to your whole point about reaching out for support, even if it's regarding a schedule change, whether it's something small or big. It's being able to rely on other people and trust that people will support you when you are going through something difficult like this.
And it's very hard. If you're a brand new physician and you're in the first year and you're going through this can be really, really challenging. It could make you think, why did I become a physician if it's so fresh and new and you're still so green? And if you're established, it still hits you just as hard, but in a different way. I've gone through all these years. How can this happen? And maybe you're a little more sure of yourself. But depending upon where you are in this situation, in this process, everybody can use help every single place. And if you've gone through this, I would also implore you to be part of a support group. A lot of liability companies, a lot of hospitals, some groups, and you could even start a support group of your own for people who have gone through this. And again, check with liability carriers and with attorneys to make sure that what you can discuss within this support group. But there are times when we kind of shut ourselves down because we've been hurt and we're proud, and that's natural. But this is a time where we need support from everyone, including our family and friends.
And with that, Susan, I thank you again for that wonderful presentation. And that concludes today's program. CAP seeks to support our members with a variety of educational opportunities, such as programs like this. If you need support during a lawsuit or after an adverse event, please contact CAP for assistance. And thank you again for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.